Remasters and remakes have taken over the video game landscape, whether driven by nostalgia, companies' desires to attract newer fans, or simply as a way to generate revenue. This trend has not only dominated video games, but also gradually seeped into visual novels over the past decade. From simple HD remasters of titles like G-senjou no Maou, Canon, and Fate Stay Night, to full remakes with new graphics like One, Yuno, and Tsui no Sora, there's a surprising amount of love for visual novels in this regard. In this video, I want to discuss 10 visual novels for which I personally desire a remaster or remake. I will try to be as realistic as I can with my wants based on whether the company is still active or likely to be interested, but some entries might lean towards pure hopium. Nova Mikis, a subsidiary of Nexon, made a remake of One, a visual novel that was essentially the precursor to Key, featuring renowned writer Jun Maeda and similar Nakage tropes. However, the original developer of One, Tactics, also created another visual novel partially written by Maeda, Moon. Unlike One, which is more of a classic Nakage we all come to expect, Moon is apparently significantly darker, with themes that have made even the most dedicated Key fans uncomfortable. Remaking this title would be challenging since the sex scenes are crucial to the plot, or so I've heard, and Nexon seems opposed to 18+ content. However, considering that there's all ages remasters like Nitro Plus's Kikokyo Guy, to me at least, it seems possible for Nexon to release a Moon remake. At the very least, I'm more interested in an ambitious dark title rather than just another okay-ish Nakage like One. A theoretical remake of Moon could also simplify required map traversal gameplay aspects similar to how the Dokusei remake did it. Speaking of which, I'm generally not into the heavy dating sim gameplay visual novels like Dokusei. However, Amagami is a special case for me as I watched the anime adaptation way back in 2010, and it's still one of my favorite pure romance shows because of its omnibus format, where it essentially adapted every route, but also because almost all the heroines are surprisingly quite likable or have interesting enough development, something many slice-of-life visual novels still fail to do consistently these days. The original visual novel for Amagami, for some reason, was limited to just the PS2 and PSP. While people have made fan translations for those, I'm generally not into the idea of having to emulate a PS2 game just to read a visual novel with a lot of gameplay. Based on reviews and retrospectives I've seen, apparently Amagami's gameplay has a surprisingly dynamic dating sim element where what event you do may influence what happens in future events or other girls you can pick. A legit PC remastered port with quality of life features would be great. I just don't even know if the original developer Enterbrain is even alive to consider doing one. While I think any of the older Nitro Plus titles could use a remake now, I think the one that needs it the most by far is Phantom of Inferno. This is especially true on the English side where, for some reason, it was officially released as a DVD, making the choice system, saving, and overall text skipping experience a lot more annoying than it needed to be. I also think the old graphics could use a little glow up, perhaps something closer to the art style of the anime adaptation Phantom Requiem for the Phantom. Speaking of which, as someone who actually watched the Phantom Requiem anime, I know for sure that the anime skipped out on a lot, but I still liked the story well enough and had the right amount of edge I liked from Nitro Plus. So hopefully this dark action series could in the future get a remake of sorts. Hopefully Nitro Plus still actually cares about this series. Shizuku is a title I first learned through an Ameliodori retrospective, but apparently many people consider this the true beginning of the Denpa genre in the visual novel scene. The visual novel itself seems to be a somewhat mixed quality, at least according to Ameliodori, but it still caught my interest as a potential starter Denpa title, even more than something like Tsui no Sora or Tsukihime. A remake of Shizuku specifically could be one that, aside from improving the graphics and keeping everything about the original intact, could benefit from new routes or additions to better flesh things out. That said, since this visual novel was originally developed by Leaf, aka the studio behind Utawarerumono and White Album, that would mean Shizuku is now owned by Aqua Plus. From what I can tell, Aqua Plus hasn't really acknowledged Shizuku much. But even if they did, Shizuku seems really dark compared to the rest of their catalog, so doing an all-ages remake or remaster might not fit their style. Still, my Copium Hopium says it might be possible to create a 17+ version, like the Kikoku Guy remake I mentioned earlier. Of course, a lot of Denpa fans would probably get upset if the sex scenes were removed, but honestly, I always thought sex scenes in Denpa games generally weren't all that well done anyway. This might be the strangest entry on this list, but I personally want a remaster for A Profile, developed by Akabe Soft 2 and written by Loose Boy. If that combination doesn't ring a bell, they're the ones behind one of my personal favorite visual novels, Shara no Kuni, but another fan favorite for theirs is G-senjou no Maou. A Profile has had a fan translation available for a long time, but I've never been too motivated to read it. While I get that it's probably not on the same level as Sharon or G-sen, it still seems to have some merit. I mean, it has a fan translation and a pretty decent rating on Arrow Gamescape. That said, the mid-2000s visual novel engines feel pretty outdated now. Maybe with an HD overhaul and updates to the engine with more quality of life, I'd be more interested in giving A Profile a shot. I'm assuming it's going to be more of the typical psychological character-driven thriller vibe like Sharon and G-sen, but maybe just not as good. One of the most influential and high-rated visual novels in Japan, but much less so in English, is Kazoku Keikaku, or as it was officially translated, Family Project. I like the idea of a main character who starts off working odd jobs and eventually gets adopted into a family and helps them with their own psychological problems. However, the fact that Family Project has an extremely old-school UI, engine, and art style makes it a bit tough to read in many ways these days, and why I haven't personally picked it up myself yet. If this gets an actual remake of sorts, maybe a scenario or two to smooth out the edges of the story, maybe that could help me actually read it. The only issue I have is the original developer, Dio, hasn't released anything since 2017, so I wonder if it would even be possible to find the rights to remake this classic in Japan, since it was apparently influential for other drama-heavy visual novels. Since ToHeart 1 recently got a remake announcement in 2024, complete with new 3D CGI graphics, I'd say it seems likely and reasonable to hope that ToHeart 2 will eventually get one, considering that while it's one of the classic romance visual novels, I think these days if you were to read the fan translation now, it would probably be a bit outdated in terms of looks, engine, and how it tells its story. With all these heroines and a bunch of people that do like the story, perhaps just a remaster with simple, mild engine improvements could help see people why this was considered a classic back in the day. Also, there's the fact that one of the translators for Nekonyan, Itaku, has that weird Rue girl that many people in the Nekonyan fandom keep copying, so it's always fresh in my mind. Considering that Never 7 and Ever 17 just got HD remasters by Magus, I can't see why the rest of the Infinity series can't, and I think this would be the perfect time for Remember 11 to get an HD remaster of sorts. Unlike Ever 17, which is more remembered for Kotaro Uchakoshi, the writer of the Zero Escape and AI Somnian Files series, Remember 11 is written by Nakazawa, noted to be the writer of stuff like Input Output and Root Double. I personally think Remember 11 is on par with, or on some days better than Ever 17, because of its excellent pacing due to having two protagonists who constantly switch minds and locations due to some crazy sci-fi magic. I love the way that it keeps you on your toes, and while there are a lot of bad ends, there are a handful that actually build up to some of the main mysteries of the game, even more so than the actual good and true ends in some cases. Now, admittedly, there is some controversy as the final scene you get in the whole game is a cliffhanger of sorts with no true final route to properly explain everything. In my pure hopium world, mages would somehow contact Nakazawa to finish up that third route that never got completed, or possibly even another writer. But perhaps Remember 11 isn't quite as fondly remembered as Never 7 or Ever 17, so probably just a simple HD remaster would be more than enough to show people how underrated this title is in the sci-fi and mystery genre. Crescendo, originally developed by Dio like Family Project, is one of the most interesting, unique slice-of-life dramas I've ever read. The main issue is its ancient visual novel engine. The graphics are super outdated with a resolution of 640 by 480, and there are oddities with the save load system and text skipping. You get the picture. This is an old-ass game on an old-ass engine. But why does it deserve a remastered remake in my eyes? It has really unique ideas and is well-paced, being a 13-hour total visual novel between 5 routes, making sure the whole story doesn't overstay its welcome. You have interesting love triangles with a simpler take on cheating compared to something like White Album 2, which in my opinion dragged out its own cheating melodrama. There's a heroine who's straight up an ex-prostitute, and a rare teacher route with a cynical school nurse. It's a game with a more serious, dramatic romance than usual, but I like the variety. There's still a wholesome dere-dere shy girl route if you want something closer to a moege too. My personal hope is that it gets remade with better resolution, a more pleasing modern art style, and changing from NVL to ADV format. Finally, and this title is admittedly huge bias on my part, but I've always been incredibly interested in Majikoi's spiritual prequel, Kimi ga Aruji de Shitsuji Orede, or They Are My Noble Masters. This is the first visual novel Minato Soft ever made, yes, even before Majikoi, all the way back in the mid-2000s. This is where the goofy comedy courtesy of Takahiro started, and what some may not know, introduced the whole battle butler and maid thing that was kind of a recurring thing throughout the Majikoi series. All 5 of the main heroines seem pretty fun in Kimiaru. I actually watched the anime adaptation a long time ago, and remember it being a decently fun time. So if you want an idea of what the title is, you could probably try to find a way to watch that. Another thing that people may not know is that this is actually the visual novel where the Kuki family was introduced, but more specifically, the high school version of Ageha Kuki. For all you Majikoi fans who have been begging for a route for her, this is the series that she was introduced in, and apparently a console port of Kimiaru had a route for her, so hopefully a theoretical remaster that includes Ageha's route in a multi-platform PC port would be the best of all worlds, including the expected things like improving the resolution from 800 to 600 to some kind of HD resolution. And that covers 10 visual novels I personally want remade or remastered. While many of these are unlikely to happen, this is one of the few times I'm willing to go full hopium and say man can dream, especially since a lot of these titles are extremely underrated. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the visual novels I chose? What older visual novels would you like to see remastered or remade? Feel free to leave a comment below.